welcome back to RazorwireReviews Rewind, and we're looking back to the year 2017. A lot of videos I could have chosen. Again, now at this point, we get to like 2017, 16, 15, 14, 13. Those were the years I lived in Norway, and I was making so many videos. And there's lots of like feature-length videos, there's movie marathons like that I forgot I'd even made. Not fully forgotten, but like, oh yeah, that one. Like, you know, it's like just like a 2-hour video that I spent ages on. Because I've just had so much free time. And it was a great period of my life, and we'll talk more about that in the next Rewind episode. But for this one, I've chosen an episode from the Epic Film Challenge 2, which is my kind of almost impossible task of making a video for every film in the book, 1,000 Movies You Must See Before You Die, which I started in 2013, and I'm almost up to 300. I've left that series, well, not left it, but kind of it's been paused and frozen and on ice, and I bring it back and it thaws out again. And, you know, I plan to finish it. Who knows if I will at this point. But this is episode, I think, 137, and it's me and Connie talking about Metropolis. So it's unique in that Connie watched a silent film, and a 2.5-hour long silent film. But in this one, unlike most of the Epic Film Challenge 2 videos, I used a lot of clips. I put more effort into it because it just felt like it was a big film, and I remember being really happy with the review, and so I thought it'd just be a fun one to include, a film review I'm really happy with and proud of, and so that's the video for the, what is that? Oh, I thought that was a light then. What even is this? What even is, oh my god, I remember this. Let's see if it still works. Jesus Christ. Anyway. We got this from my nan and granddad for Christmas a few years ago. It's like, well, you never know when you might need it. Yeah, I don't think we've ever... Well, maybe we used it once or twice. It's like all the dust. I could use this as like a bootleg lighting, couldn't I? It hurt my arm to hold it up, though. You can see how thin my hairline is getting. Anyway. Metropolis, which I've made multiple videos about, I think. But this one, it's quite a nice one. And I really wanted to include, for 2016, the Epic Film Challenge 2 review of The Kid Brother, another silent film. I just remember everything was really clicking with that review, and I did it with Connie, and I loved the film, and I wanted to share it with her, and we talked about it, and I really loved that video. But I'm trying to, like, change things up, you know, from, like, video to video, so it's not just all of one of the same thing. I'm trying to vary everything. So the next one in 2016 is going to be a vlog. I'll talk about that more in the next one. But for now, enjoy our review of Metropolis if you haven't seen it so far. This is a Eureka release of the film from, I think, the 80s or early 90s. But anyway, enjoy. Hello, welcome to episode 137 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. This is a big one, Metropolis from 1927. It is currently the 28th of January 2017, and Metropolis premiered on the 10th of January 1927 in Berlin. So it's the 90th anniversary this month. I wanted to kind of rewatch it and do the review for it, but also to rope Connie into watching it. And I'm honestly really surprised that we watched this today, especially considering it.
It is almost 11:45.
Yeah. But especially considering the fact that we watched the prelude of the film, which is an hour long, took a break and then came back to it later on. And I wasn't sure whether we were going to come back to it later on or not, because you were kind of getting a bit sleepy and stuff. And I really want to kind of break this film down into like talking about the different
parts of it that I think are so special. But first of all, let's just get Connie's opinion. What did you think of it? Just general impressions.
God. Well, the first part was what, an hour long?
Yeah, it's called the prelude, but I mean it's the first part of the film, I suppose. Yeah.
It's like an hour long.
Yeah.
And I was just sleepy in general. Coffee wasn't working, nothing was working, the lights were off.
Okay.
And I was struggling a little bit because even though I found it brilliant, it was great, it was impressive what they did, you know. I always keep thinking about like, okay, this is 1927, it's 1927. So many things in it that are really, really impressive. Like some proper Frankenstein stuff going on, and I'm just thinking, how did they do that? Because nowadays, you don't even think twice about it. If things doesn't look realistic and stuff.
Done on the computer.
Yeah, but people are just like, you know, people are going to Mars. People don't care. No one's impressed by anything anymore. If we made dinosaurs and had Jurassic Park, people would fucking care. That's the world though, isn't it?
People are going to Mars, we don't care.
Yeah. I don't know anyone but you who care about the fact that people are going to Mars.
Right, okay.
But that's a different matter.
Yeah.
People just don't care about stuff anymore. But I think about like, okay, this is 1927. It's freaking impressive.
Okay, yeah.
Parts of it was like really, really grainy and broken.
Grainy and broken, right, well I'll explain that, I'll just cut in there. The version we watched was the one that's readily available now on Blu-ray and DVD, the restored, they call it the complete version I think of Metropolis, 150 minutes long. When the film originally came out it was a bit longer than that, and then they cut a load out of the film, like 70 minutes, so that they could show it more times, make more money, and then that footage started just, you know, falling by the wayside. You know, film was very flammable in the early era of film, and so stuff was destroyed and stuff, but it was only I think in like the late 2000s that they found this other print in Argentina that had all this new footage and stuff. It's not the best quality. There was no, you can tell with the quality of the print, there was no way they could have digitally smoothed it all out. It would have looked like a complete glob of mess, but they included it, and so you have these bits. Yeah, they wiped it all. It is grainless, right? Let's not get into a tangent about RazorwireReviews. Yeah, so you'll have these shots in the film on the Blu-ray where it's nowhere near as clear as the rest of the film, but they put that in there to give you the most complete version possible. So there are these bits where it really doesn't look that good, but it at least fills in the gaps of the story.
So what I wanted to comment about that was that every now and then one of those really, the less clear parts come in,
yes.
And then you go back to the nicer parts,
yeah.
And then you appreciate it more.
Yeah.
You know, and then you really notice. It's like having a stomach ache for like 10 minutes and you don't remember how great life was when you don't have that stomach ache, and then it goes away and you just feel blessed.
Okay, yeah. It's interesting.
It's not the same at all.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. You brought that up while we were watching the film. You were saying, wow, the bad quality of this new footage really makes you appreciate the rest of it. And I was thinking, yeah, you're right. I mean, the Blu-ray looks phenomenal. It really does. It's just...
But you get used to it.
You do get used to it, but then that new footage reminds you about it. But I will say, by the end of the film, I was getting a bit annoyed by it because I was like, oh, I wish that they had that shot in nice quality, because there were some really cool shots that they didn't have in the best. But I like that they tried to complete it as much as possible.
I find it charming to see something that broken down and like impossible to make better.
Yeah.
That makes it more like, you know, yeah, I like that. It's charming in a way.
And there's two scenes in the film, one that's very minor and one that's pretty cool and we wish we'd seen, where they had nothing, so they just tell you in the intertitles there's a scene where this happens, and so there was that. Right, so the film itself, Metropolis.
Well, I didn't finish saying what I thought about the movie.
Well, we'll get into that as I go through the key parts.
I was still talking about the first part.
Okay, well, carry on.
What I was going to say is it was great and all that impressive.
Yeah.
But I found it boring.
Yeah, that's
right
fine.
there and then. It was. Don't get me wrong, it was great.
It drags. The story does drag.
It dragged in the beginning.
Especially the first part, I think. The first hour.
Part. And then we took the break. And we got back for the second and third part.
Yes.
And it all changed.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah, so the film itself, Metropolis, is not quite the first science fiction film. In fact, the very first episode of the Epic Film Challenge 2 that we did like 4 years ago almost, was 1902's A Trip to the Moon.
Yeah.
But this is the first, I think, big science fiction blockbuster on this scale. They'd done big scale movies like this before in the 1910s with Intolerance, but those were like kind of set in kind of like biblical times and stuff. This is a futuristic film set in the year 2026. Which, you know, we're not that far off from now, but to them was literally like 100 years into the future. And
9 years from now.
yeah, and that you have these huge big cityscapes, which is one of the kind of iconic shots from the film, is just seeing these huge, you know, unrealistically high skyscrapers and all of these cars and planes flying around and stuff. They did so many different elements of visual effects to make this film work. It's staggering the amount of detail they put into it, and that's one thing I want to just talk about actually, is just the production design, the art direction.
Yeah.
The Art Deco kind of vibe going on there, but then the filming of it, like the German expressionism with the stark lighting and the angles, and it just looks incredible. They use stop motion, they used kind of, not even matte paintings, but they would like use mirrors to extend the scene, and just, I don't even know how they did most of the stuff, because there's a scene with, multiple scenes with lightning. And I don't know how they did that. I mean, it looks animated to me, but it looks too clean and crisp to be drawn onto the frame. I don't know how they did it, and part of me doesn't want to ever find out. I don't want to kind of break the illusion too much, because it's so impressive. And there's one scene. Well, let's just get to the story. I mean, just for the sake of being a bit more complete, it's about this huge city, this metropolis, and the kind of divide between the people who live in the city. You have the workers who literally live underground. They are bottom of the rung, and all the workers who keep the city running, all the electricity going, all that kind of stuff, they live down in the dirt basically. And then you have the privileged who live up in the tops of the skyscrapers, and you know, they're just pampered basically. And you have this character called Joe Friederson, the guy who runs the city, and his son Frieda. It's about this guy's son, the son of the man who runs the big city, the kind of, and how the son starts to learn about how the city really works, and that it is run by these people down at the bottom who have nothing. And it is very much a commentary on kind of like social classes and things like that, and the symbolism of that and kind of the meaning behind it is pretty bold by today's standards. I don't think you get away with a film like that now. Everyone just balk at it, you know, like, oh yeah, we get what you're trying to say there. But because it's from back then, you know, it feels like it was one of the first films to really put that kind of really bold message into a big blockbuster kind of movie, you know, like a sci-fi film. I really liked the way that the story worked with that, with the people on the bottom, people at the top, and then how they just can't really coexist, and that's what the whole film is about. And the son kind of discovering all this, and he meets this girl called Maria, who is kind of trying to lead the people from the underground, the depths of the city, to you know, to kind of bring everyone together peacefully. But of course that's not going to pan out that way, and it devolves into violence by the end of the film, and big things happen. I don't want to go into the plot too much, but I think the plot is a little bit thick. Like there's some side stories that I think are a little bit too convoluted. Like there's a scene where the main character, the son of the guy who runs the city, he takes over from a guy who's working in the underground, and he says, take my place, take my clothes, and blah blah blah, and he goes off, and then he goes on a little adventure, and then there's his friend, and then it didn't feel like that really added much to the overall story. It just kind of elongated the film a bit.
I thought that part was important considering what happens to the guy.
I suppose so. I suppose it does flesh out one side character, but you know, that's really my only criticism I could throw at the plot, is that there's some of the side moments that I think just, I don't know, I feel like it could have been trimmed a little bit. And then that raises...
There's a lot of stuff that could have been trimmed a little bit.
I suppose, yeah.
Some of the stuff, like a certain chasing scene, just went on forever.
Yeah, I mean, it really does milk the sets and how much money they put into it. There's these big kind of expansive sets of buildings and rooms, and down in the underground, up in the top in the buildings, the skyscrapers, and if they have like a chase sequence, it shows you the same shot over and over again, the characters coming back and forth. I like that though, but
yeah, but it went on for like 4 minutes too long,
I suppose. Well, I don't know, and it raises an interesting question, because Fritz Lang said at the time that he didn't think it was that good. He wasn't that happy with the film. And I wonder if it's just because this is such a beloved film. People love this. People hail it as one of the all-time classics, and I wonder if part of that is because it's so old. And even though that it has those kind of pacing issues, you kind of overlook that because of how impressive the rest of it is. I know I certainly do. You know, I mean, it's not a perfect film. It's not even my favourite Fritz Lang film, which might be quite controversial, but you know, it's just a staggering piece of work. Just the scope of it, how much money it must have cost to put all of that together. I think I read there was like 37,000 extras employed. It really shows in those scenes where there's just so many people rushing towards, like, going upstairs and stuff. Very powerful imagery.
For now, that would be CGI. They would have like...
It really would.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of big scale extras work in films anymore because you can just do it all on a computer.
There's so many, like, the sets are so big and different. And
huge.
And the way everything is put together too is really, I like the build up of it all. Like the first part.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was like, okay, it was good, but I struggled to really enjoy it, you know?
Yeah, I can see that.
And then the second part was, it really got good really fast. And then the third part, I was so into it because of the second part. And so much stuff was going on.
Yeah.
And I was really awake from the dinner. So, and we had the lights on too. So I managed to really enjoy the last part. And so it really built itself up really well.
Yeah, I think the story is really well done. And yeah, I think, I mean, I'm kind of with you on that first hour. I do think that it drags at points. But every part really does help to build up to where it's going.
Yeah, I find it necessary.
I think where it goes wrong in that first hour is just the editing of the scenes. Like there's just parts where the characters will be like, you know, like this, and then like that, and it holds for a bit too long, and it's that's another thing. We should talk about the acting.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, the acting.
Let's get into the acting. It's very over the top and melodramatic. I feel like that works for the film, and there are.
Well, it's a silent movie. They have to be over the top a little bit, don't they?
Yes and no. I always thought that. I always thought, well, obviously in silent films they must be like overacting because they had to, and I think there is some truth to that. But I've seen silent films from way before this, you know, where the acting is really subtle and it really plays. But I feel like this story is so big and grand and epic. I feel like the over-the-top acting style kind of fits the story a little bit. It's still kind of, you know, there's some certain bits where you kind of go, you know, especially with the lead actor who plays Frida. And the lead actress, Bridget Helm, who plays Maria. And I think that she's great. Purely because she plays two roles, and she has the same clothing literally in most of those scenes, and she really made herself stand out. I mean, it was pretty clear who she was in each scene.
The makeup was different though.
The makeup was different, but it was her mannerisms.
Yeah, definitely.
And she does this weird kind of twitching thing with her eye, which I thought...
Yeah, her one eye, her left eye is like...
I thought was really cool.
Kind of like...
A sinister wink, almost.
Well, yeah, and also made her not look as human as she was supposed to be. But she had like these little twerks as well, like you know, and twitches with her whole body.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
And yeah, I think she played that part better than.
Yes, the human part.
The human part.
Yeah, because she plays this animated.
She plays scared horribly.
Yeah, her kind of frightened scene in the film with the flashlight was a bit... That was kind of one of the weaker parts of the film.
To be fair though, the director probably told her, more scared! More scared!
Yeah.
You're terrified!
In fact, I read that Bridget Helm said that filming that was very arduous because he was very intense about the whole thing. And I mean, the film took over a year to make, like I think over 300 days of shooting, which is ridiculous. But there's a couple of really good performances in the film.
Yes.
The main one is from
scientist.
The scientist who kind of has this robot who he wants to make into this woman, and I love that side story about this woman that him and the head of the city, they both were in love with the same woman, and so there's an interesting kind of history between those two, and he wants to kind of bring her back, and the other one doesn't want him to, and you get this really cool looking robot, which, you know, anyone can look at that and kind of go, oh, C-3PO. And George Lucas said to the designers of Star Wars, "Oh, I just want something like the robot from Metropolis." So very directly inspired Star Wars in that way from the design aesthetic. But yeah, so Bridget Allen plays Maria, and then the robot version of Maria, and the fact that she looks exactly like her plays into the plot as well, which was really cool and kind of adds some kind of tension to everything that's going on. But the guy who plays the scientist, Rudolph Klein Rogger, I believe is his name. I love this actor. He's in most of Fritz Lang's films in the 20s. Great character actor, and he probably is the best thing about this film, I think. And
Yes,
I'm glad that you noticed that as well.
Some of his scenes, what I liked the most about him was some of the scenes where he was subtle.
Yes.
He played a lot with his eyes. Like he just raised his one eyebrow, for example, in some scenes, and that would be enough. But also the way his makeup was put on around his eyes made them pop a little bit more. And so he was able to act with his eyes a little extra, but not. He didn't overdo it all the time. Of course, there were scenes where he did, because he was supposed to look crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's pretty much the first mad scientist character on film, you know, like the crazy gestures and stuff like that, but then he brings it down to a more calmer level later on, and it's really effective, I think.
Like when he was having the conversations with
Joe.
The
leader of the city.
And also when he was transferring the body onto C-3PO or whatever.
Yes.
There was a moment when he had a facial expression which I really enjoyed seeing. Kind of, it was refreshing because everything else is very silent movie-ish. It's like watching pantomime sometimes. They're so over the top sometimes, like that girl.
Yes.
You know, that chasing scene though, I didn't enjoy, but parts of his acting was really good. I also enjoyed the main working guy.
Yeah, there's a character who is kind of like the head of the workers down in the underground, or for the film at least he is. I believe his character's name was Grot. It just seems very fitting to someone like that. But,
yeah, he's a big guy.
Yeah, and he gave a very good performance. But what I like is that Alfred Abel is the actor who plays Joe Friederson, the head of the city, and he had a very subtle performance as well. And I really liked his acting. And him and Rotwang, the scientist, they both, their parts in the story are so integral to everything that happens. And so to have those two have probably the best performances, I think worked really well. And when you have Freda and then Maria, the younger lead characters of the film, yeah, they're overacting, but I just feel like it works for some reason. I don't know. I like that there was variations in the acting. And
yeah, like they fit together, kind of.
Yes, exactly.
Like they were partners in the.
Right. Yeah.
No, but it wasn't bad. I mean, I'm kind of used to seeing stuff like that in silent movies and some black and white movies, and so it's. But the contrast made me more aware of it, I guess.
Sure, that's a good point. Yeah.
When there's someone that good in the movie, and then someone like that girl when she was being herself, is like, oh, you know.
Yeah. The score. Love the score by Gottfried Huppert, I believe. And what I love about this is that it's the original score, which you really don't get that much in silent films, you know. And I read as well that they actually had the score and it was played during filming at times to get people into it and stuff. So obviously the music was very much thought of as part of the film and not just an afterthought like some silent films. And it really fits, you know. And I love that it fits, and it feels very grand and epic and booming, and just works with everything. There's these recurrent themes that come throughout the film.
I'd say about 90% of the time it really, really fit.
Yes, definitely.
There were some moments where I was wishing there would be some other kind of music, but most of the time it was really, really spot on. Yeah,
the hit to miss ratio was very high.
Yeah.
One thing I really liked about the film was some of the stunts. Like, there's a lot of fight scenes in the film where you can tell they're proper going for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wow, they're like almost hitting each other for real in those scenes. and especially towards the end, there's a big like fight scene on top of a cathedral that's pretty hairy. Like it's kind of this fall down the side of the roof there that just looked pretty. I don't know how they did dummies or something, but it looked pretty real to me. And also just kind of there's a big set piece at the end with this water filling the underground city, and it comes out of the floor, and it's just really kind of creepy and kind of scary in a way. And then
I
it
was
starts.
thinking about The Shining when it was coming out,
Yes,
like
yes.
kind of like bleeding out of the floor.
There is a shot that is quite reminiscent of The Shining, and just the fact that it's pouring through all of the houses and it's coming out through the ceiling, and that whole sequence was really exciting and just done really well. And again, just speaks to how massive the production was and how expensive it probably was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's not much more we can go into. I mean, it has such a fascinating production history, and one thing I really want to talk about, just very briefly, is the fact that Hitler was a huge fan of this film. He loved it, much to the dismay of the director, Fritz Lang. And apparently, in fact, I got the story here so I don't get it wrong, Joseph
It's
Goebbels...
funny, I was thinking about him when she was being the robot.
Okay. Why?
Because she was, you know, talking to the men and
Right.
telling them what to do and stuff.
Okay,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
it being German and all, I just thought about Hitler for a little bit.
I like that about the film is the mob mentality, and it kind of shows just, I don't know, like the way you can manipulate people. That really plays into the story a lot, and how
Which also made me think about Hitler.
the masses can be manipulated, and it's all about that power play. And I loved all that back and forth and stuff. But ultimately, it showed that the power of you know, loads of people, even if they're these lowly people from the bottom, they really can do something if they group together. Like there's a bit where they just power through this metal fence, you know, and they just break the bars down, and it's quite a powerful scene, I thought. But yeah, Joseph Goebbels, who was I think one of Hitler's kind of right-hand men, he met with Fritz Lang and told him that he could be made an honorary Aryan despite the fact that he had a Jewish background. And he said to him, we decide who's Jewish and who is not, which is kind of a scary thing. And Fritz Lang left the country that same night. So what a hero, you know, just to say, right, fuck that, I'm leaving. And he left, and he went off to America and made films in America. So as soon as, you know, Hitler started getting close to him, he's like, screw this, I'm out. So and it also ties in.
Wow, it takes some balls to do that.
It does take some balls to do that, but also it works into his wife, who he worked with at the time, Fritz Lang. She wrote his films at the time, and she was kind of a bit more involved in the Nazi side. So, yeah, there's so much you can go into with the history of Metropolis.
She stayed?
I'm pretty sure she did. Yeah, they split up around that time, I think. But yeah, overall, Metropolis I think is an amazing film. If you were to say like what's the 10 best films of all time, and by best I mean just all those things rolled into one, I'd put it on the top 10. I think not my favourites. I would say it's not a film I could watch over and over again. Every couple of years, I think.
I think the next time should be 2027.
Yeah, it would be fun to watch it on the 100th anniversary.
Or
And
2026 when it's set.
oh yeah.
Difficult one.
But I'm glad that you enjoyed it and appreciated it for what it was.
Yeah, I think I'll when we watch it again in so many years, I'll enjoy the first part more because I'll know that it will get better in a way.
Right,
Well,
yeah.
not better, but I'll enjoy it more later on because I was getting kind of worried.
Yeah.
Like, oh god, it's an hour and a half more.
I'm just
trying to stay awake.
I'm just over the moon that you're even considering watching it again. I didn't expect that.
Sure.
To be honest, I really didn't expect
I
that.
watched the first part almost with you in color and 80s music.
Right, yeah. I might do a whole other video about this, but there's the.
You probably should.
I will, don't worry. But there's a 1980s version that was they put color tinting on it. They put 80s music over it. They re-edited it. They put subtitles on instead of intertitles, and it's like half as long as the the one we have now. So I just watched all of it tonight because I was so taken with how weird it was, and for the most part it really is pretty shit. But
It's like an hour shorter or something.
yeah, over an hour shorter. But in the first half of the film, it really was a lot snappier, and scenes which dragged in the proper cut were really flowing well in the first half of the 80s kind. I thought, oh, this is pretty interesting. But after about 20 minutes, they seemed to give up, and just the cutting was wrong. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting discussion to talk about with these old silent films that have lost footage and then found again, because you want to just put everything back in, and then they want to keep every single shot. Like there's one moment where it's the kind of grainy bad footage but it's the same shot, and then it cuts to the new footage. So they
Oh,
were literally
yeah.
using frames. So anything they found, they put into the film. And I don't know whether you should tinker around with that or not, but it is what it is. Is it a film you should see before you die?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if you said no.
Oh, good. I was lying.
It's just, it's a monumental film. It really is. Like, it blows me away, just because you have some old films that have like a big scene with a huge set, and it's like, wow, that's awesome. But this, every like 3 minutes there's another huge set. I mean, you just fully believe in this world of Metropolis.
Yeah.
Another bit
It's
of
really impressive how they did some of that stuff.
incredibly.
I really want to know how they did it.
Another fun bit of trivia. Obviously, Superman's home is Metropolis, and that's directly from this film. That was
Really?
that was the inspiration. Yeah, that's another cool little link.
Oh.
But yeah, just the visual effects as well. There's just all these multiple exposure effects, like all these eyes on screen at the same time. And I've seen a lot of that through silent films, but it's done really well here. Like I've seen in other films, but just adds to the overall package. It has that kind of weird, kind of hallucinatory effect at times in some of the scenes. And one scene I didn't like the first time I watched it was when
She dances.
she dances, yeah, and it's a very weird scene that comes out of nowhere, and like, you know, her boobs are out but the nipples are covered, and it's just, oh, okay, and she's doing all this weird stuff, and it's like not very sexy at all, and all the men are like, oh my god, and it's weird, you know. But
They look like the Mask when he's sat by the table.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's like their tongues are almost hanging out.
They almost are, yeah. But I liked it more this time. It made more sense in terms of how she was manipulating everyone, and just the symbolism. Oh, I'm glad I didn't forget about this. The Seven Deadly Sins scene was really cool.
Yeah.
Where the Grim Reaper starts walking out, and they're all statues, but they start moving, and they're all representing the Seven Deadly Sins. Just really cool. I mean, it doesn't really need to be there, I don't think, but it was really cool as a visual.
Well, she was the Deadly Sins, wasn't she?
True, yeah. Actually,
She was
great point.
all the Deadly Sins in one.
Great point. Yeah, I take that back. Yeah.
I think that was one of the best shots. Was Death actually with his
Scythe, yeah.
and he was
Swinging it towards the
It
camera.
was so cool, and I was just.
Yeah.
I started thinking about Darth Vader in Rogue One for a little bit.
What a comparison.
But yeah, because it's a powerful
It is.
being with a deadly weapon, you know?
Yeah.
And then he starts swinging it. But I actually liked it more before he started swinging it. It was
Okay.
really, really cool.
Yeah, it was.
But I saw that in the credits before the movie started. It said Death.
Oh, alright, okay.
So I knew Death would be there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not
So
not
I
not a
was-
big character, but definitely like this little minor scene in the film.
Yeah, but it was
And,
really cool.
Yeah, and also Freda gets that. It's a scene that's missing, but they tell you about it. That someone is a prophet is telling them about this woman or something, and there's an image of this woman rising with all these like beasts and stuff, and then they actually show that happening in the dance scene where she rises up and she's holding the cup. Very like just striking stuff.
Apocalypse part in the Bible.
Yeah.
Said.
Yeah. There's a couple of biblical kind of things going through, but not too much. And also another thing.
She looked exactly like the painting almost.
Yeah, that was really cool. Another thing was there's a scene where Joe Frierson is up in the kind of headquarters of the big, huge Babylon Tower, which I love, by the way. Love the design of that. But he's up there, and he gets a call from down in the lower depths from the guy who runs the.
Yeah.
And it's like a CCTV thing on the screen.
Yeah.
And
how did they do that screen thing?
I don't know if they projected it because his hand moves over it and it's so clean and crisp. I think that there must have been like a projector underneath the screen or something.
Yeah, on the other side.
Yeah, but what I really liked was in one of Chaplin's films from the 30s, Modern Times, he has something like that in the film, and I remember thinking, oh wow, that must be the first time someone's done this in a film, but I'd completely forgotten this, where in Metropolis they had it, and it's kind of predicting the future, because
It is.
And I want to mention this as well, because it's not in the book. My favourite Fritz Lang film is Woman in the Moon, which is his big kind of space, mission to the moon film, which I just love it so much. And that film predicts so much. It predicts that rockets would be fired up, into space, and then the rocket would separate from the ship. Like, he got all those scientific details correct before they even happened, decades before. So it's cool that his films have these little technological kind of moments of fantasy that would go on to become fiction.
Well, don't you think that maybe before people make these movies, don't you think that if you're going to make movie about the future, you talk to some scientists and think, so what do you
Oh
think
no, yeah,
the
yeah,
future's
absolutely, no,
gonna be
yeah,
about?
no.
Like the rocket science stuff, there were people who were scientists and who would probably have calculated stuff like
Yeah,
that before it even happened.
I didn't want to dwell on it too long, but Fritz Lang was working with scientists too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the case in Woman in the Moon, but yeah. So that was just one of those little...
He was predicting it. He was probably asking scientists.
Sure, yeah, no, I wasn't implying that, but I mean, you know, they definitely worked hard on that one.
Yeah.
But it was cool, that little kind of video screen.
Yeah, of course, it's awesome.
You pointed it out, and I wasn't even thinking about it, and you were like, they didn't have that back then, did they? And I was like...
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
they
guess
have
they
that in
didn't,
every
yeah.
movie after the 50s or 60s or something. It's like,
Yeah.
from James Bond, all of that stuff, you know. It's just,
Yeah, it's funny, we're watching the film and kind of saying, I like seeing these people from the 20s knowing that they would never experience things like Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but like they live in a time where they don't have phones and they don't have internet.
No,
When how do they Morse code or something if they wanted to talk to people from other countries right away?
Telegrams, you know.
Yeah, but right away.
So,
Could they even do that back then?
I know, it's a completely different world now. It's not.
I
It's
know.
not quite how Metropolis imagined it. And
No.
another bit of trivia.
That would have been crazy though if they were walking around with some kind of screen in their pocket and going like, "What's up?"
Yeah. They had smartphones in Metropolis. That'd be funny.
Oh, God.
Apparently, Fritz Lang got a germ of the idea for this film when he first visited New York and he saw the skyline. I like that story because when we first went to New York and went to Times Square the first night, it staggered me, and I live in the modern world, you know. So I can imagine, you know, going back then even to see something like that and be like, wow. I like how that tied into how this film looks visually, and yeah. So we've babbled on enough about it. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, there's still loads of stuff I could point out.
Oh sure. I mean,
Visually and the set and the props and everything. But oh well.
it's just it's a film that is, you know, really based on the visuals, but it has that good story to it. I love the ending of the film too. It's very small, like in terms, like the last shot of the film isn't on a big set or anything. It's just focused on these characters and what they do to resolve the story, and so I think it's a really powerful message as well. I think, which is the quote they keep going through, which is something like, the mediator between the hands and the head must be the heart, meaning that, you know, you need to kind of unite everyone with, you know, the feeling of it more than just the mechanical nature of do this, do that, you know, and you know, you use your heart a bit more, which I think is always going to be a relevant message in society. So yeah, right, that's it. Metropolis, done. Well, one of the big ones, I think, is one of the great silent films, and I'm just happy that you enjoyed it and didn't hate me afterwards, because when you were getting a bit bored in the first half, I thought, oh god, this is going to be terrible, and in an hour and a half she's going to really hate me.
But you knew that it was getting better.
Yeah. I just love the film, and its influence is seen throughout, you know, the rest of film history. Just all these little things that Fritz Lang employed. Great director, by the way, Fritz Lang.
Well, I'm glad I didn't end up hating you too. Well, not hating you, but like end up feeling horrible after like a certain farm.
Animal Farm, yeah.
Animal Farm.
Yeah, not that you'd end up hating me, but you'd end up feeling resentful that I'd wasted 2.5 hours of your day. So that was definitely a risk.
I was worried.
Because
I was worried for a bit. I was like, when you were at the shop, I was thinking, oh no, it's gonna be like 7:30 before we can start watching it. We're not gonna be done watching it until 9.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, but luckily it was good.
Yeah,
so.
Luckily it was good. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Ta-ta and farewell.
Ta-ta and farewell.